introduction on avalanche mitigation at Solitude Mountain Resort. Has everyone here skied Solitude?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm Doug Catherine. I'm the Avalanche Mitigation Manager. And this is supposed to be a two-way conversation, so at any point, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, just speak up. Scheduled to go an hour. We certainly can go longer if you guys have questions. Perfect. So what we're going to talk about today, an introduction to Avalanche Mitigation Department. What service do we offer the ski resort? Why are we here? We're going to give a quick brief background on avalanches. We'll talk about how we argue to ourselves and how we manage risk versus reward and hazard and exposure, as well as we'll talk about a day in the life of avalanche mitigation and Solitude ski patrol. The other thing we're going to discuss is this is an outreach for you guys, how you guys can help us and how you can help yourselves within the terrain of Solitude and in the backcountry. Anyone have any questions? Any topics they want to cover that we can somewhat tailor this to? Perfect. So, I'm an avalanche geek and I like to watch avalanches, so that's what we'll get started with. Does anyone know where this is? Fantasy. Perfect. So this was a couple of years ago. Snowpackers, similar to what we have going on now. You'll see a black blast there, and one more on your right. You can start to see large avalanches coming out here, and if we watch here, we'll see an avalanche come out. You can see the snow traveling down here. And the video sadly stops, but ultimately what ends up happening is the snow comes down, triggers the slide up here, and this also comes out. This is a rather large avalanche for us. The entire area, stretching from here to here, is around 700 feet, and the crown was 4 to 6 feet deep. The slide was large enough that it traveled all the way down to the honeycomb and started going back up the other side of the wall, put approximately 15 to 20 feet of snow on the valley floor of Honeycomb Camp. This is a picture of a patroller in the crown line. So if he's 5.5, 6 feet tall, this is easily 6 feet tall. This is an average size of what the crown was, stretching 500 feet long. I would not be surprised if we see something like this come out of the honeycomb again this year. Little terrain question. Do you guys know where this piece of terrain is? Specifically. It's not the pinnacle, but it is on the east face. This is in a general area that we call the Coombe. The Coombe Chute. Is anyone familiar with the Coombe Chute? Coombe Chute's Voltaire area of the east face. Perfect. So I'd like to go through the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, and why. Who are we? So like I said, for you guys coming in, feel free to help yourself to hot chocolate and cookies. I'm Doug, manager of the Avalanche Mitigation Department. We have a specific department for the avalanche called Avalanche Mitigation. We're an extension of Solitude Ski Patrol. So essentially, we're all ski patrollers. You'll see us traveling around wearing a ski patrol jacket. Some of us are lucky or unlucky enough to work for avalanche mitigation, but if you see a ski patroller, they more than likely perform avalanche mitigation with us. This is a picture of the crew. So what do we offer? Every day, we make an assessment. We go out to see if terrain is openable or it needs to be closed. One thing that we pride ourselves in is that we're in the business of opening terrain. A lot of people think we're out there to close terrain, but we want to open terrain for people. So we fight as hard as we can, work long hours, and really push it as far as we safely can to keep terrain open. It breaks our heart to close terrain. Additionally, when the terrain is open, it makes our life a lot easier. What are we? Like I said, ultimately we're ski patrol. Within ski patrol, everyone participates in avalanche mitigation and avalanche rescue. Avalanche mitigation, we're a department of 5 people. It's myself, we have a supervisor named Kelly, and then we have 3 techs that work with us as well. And they're dedicated to traveling around the hill, looking for avalanche hazards, planning for the future, managing our rescue program, and also our explosive program. We also heavily participate in training. We train all of patrol. We would consider this an extension of training. We like to speak to the public and make sure that they are well aware of the services that we offer and the rules that we expect everyone to follow. The other thing that we do is we track the weather for the resort. So who here looked to see how much snow we got today? You looked. We see a bunch of hands up. So perfect. Every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, at the latest, we wake up and we look at the weather. We then communicate that with Solitude's marketing department and they push it out to you guys. We're not quite intelligent enough to learn how to use a website yet, but eventually we'll get there with enough training. So we talk about rescue. We have a bunch of toys around here that I brought with me. I'll start passing them around. You guys are more than welcome to take a look at them. The one thing I ask is they come back, please. So when we do rescue, what are some avalanche rescue tools that we use? A beacon, perfect, thank you. So we all ski patrollers always carry a beacon. This is the beacon we use. If you're a nerd, it's a Keep Sky Pro, but you can play with the switches. You're not going to break it, please don't pry it too hard, but feel free to play with it if you guys would like. We'll start that there. You can even try it on if you want. Are there any other rescue devices we use? A probe, perfect. Every ski patroller always carries a probe. What is a probe used for? Finding the victim. I like to think in simple terms. A probe is used for poking people. They collapse, they're lightweight, they move around. If you guys are interested what it's like to probe someone in an avalanche, does anyone have any idea? You'll all learn by the end of today what it's like to probe someone. Mark, can I probe you? Sure. That's what it feels like. Can I probe you here? It's kind of squishy. Maybe firmer than others, but kind of squishy. It's certainly different than wood. Ground, mud's kind of sticky. I'll pass this around. Probe your friends. Please watch out for eyes and ask for consent before you probe someone. And if you're under 18 and playing with this, please ask your parents for help. I don't have time to collapse that, but you can collapse it for me, and we'll pass one this way. I always carry 2 probes. A lot of us do carry 2 probes. The reason we carry 2 probes is because probes break. They break all the time. And it's a real bummer if you need a rescue tool and it's not available for you. Another rescue tool that we have. A shovel. All ski patrollers always carry a shovel. What do we use a shovel for? Digging. Digging, yeah, perfect. There's some videos floating around on the interwebs about people digging people out. We have tree well immersions or non-avalanche rated or related snow immersions. On patrol, we use them quite frequently for digging out platforms for toboggans, digging out sleds, power pads. It's a really useful tool. We got a probe going that way, a probe going that way. We can pass that around. Any other rescue tools? Someone say anything? A dog, yes. Sadly, I don't have a dog in my backpack, and I would be lying to you if I said we all carry around dogs. But we do have canines at Solitude Mountain Resort. Currently, right now, we have 5 canines in various stages of training. We have some elderly dogs that are on their way out, some dogs that are in their prime, the top of their game, and we have 2 dogs right now that are also in training. One thing that I'll make a plug for canines, if you guys see the Avalanche rescue dogs, they'll always be with a handler. Please, please, please ask the handler before you run up to a dog. It's just like a strange dog on the street. You wouldn't run up. All of our handlers will be very nice and will let you say hello to the dogs, but sometimes they're training and people running up to the dogs is disruptive. What other rescue tools do we have? Oh, I saw a hand, yeah. Reco, perfect. I'm glad you asked that. I was a little worried that I'd have to prompt you guys. We do use Reco. Our resort has a Reco device. We have 2 Reco detectors. Do you know anything about a Reco? I wouldn't say that it's larger. The nice thing about a Reco is it looks for a passive device. So in order to look for a beacon, the other person definitely has to be wearing a beacon. It has to be turned on, it has to be maintained, it has to have batteries. A Reco looks for a Reco reflector. I see a lot of nice ski equipment around here. A lot of ski equipment companies have reflectors. And if you think of a bike reflector, it's essentially the same thing. So if you buy a jacket with a Reco reflector, it never turns off, it's always on. So it's a way for us to assume or help find a lot of people that don't actively have beacons on them. So if we turn it on, let's see, someone's got a Reco reflector over here. Oh. You might have a Reco, you might have a cell phone, but there's definitely a Reco over here. Can you guys all hear that? It does. It's not as sensitive as the purpose-built reflector, but we add car key fobs, boot warmers, things like that. Anything electronic. It actually uses a diode. The reflector is a diode, which is 2 crisscrossing pieces of metal. The Reco reflector, though, is really what we look for. Yes. I don't have any pictures, and we don't have one because they weigh several hundred pounds and they're many thousands of dollars. But they do have Recos that hang from a helicopter. They also have beacons that hang from a helicopter. And the helicopter will fly around with the Reco and essentially throw out a stone with a piece of flagging and say, right here, and then we'll come in. And we do have that capability. It's a shared resource through Wasatch Backcountry Rescue, which is a rescue organization that we belong to. And it's currently managed by the state police. They have that in their hangar. So if we need it, we'll call the police, and the police will come in and fly over and help us out with that. So, I really want to pass this around. I really want you guys to be able to play with this. It is delicate, and this is an active rescue tool. Please, please, please do not break it. It looks bright and cheap. They're very expensive. Feel free to play with all the switches. Be very careful with it though. It's a delicate piece of electronics. You guys want to play with that? Are you all done with that shovel? Did everyone get to see the shovel? Perfect. Any other rescue pieces of equipment you guys can think of? Yeah. was, she was asking about different beacon technologies, how many antennas there are. So old beacons used to have only one antenna, which means that they would receive on only one antenna. All beacons transmit on one antenna. Some beacons receive on one antenna, some beacons receive on 2 antennas, and some beacons receive on 3 antennas. It gets a little deep into the weeds in the term of this talk, but this beacon has 3 antennas. And I would say that most modern beacons, almost, if not all modern beacons that you would go to the store and buy today, will have 3 antennas. Has everyone had an opportunity to see the beacon? You haven't? Perfect. Here you go, buddy. Then you want to flip this up. Sorry? I'm sure he'll pass it to you. Any other rescue equipment? Oh yeah, you bet we do. So if you can't guess, this pack is set up like we would go out in the morning. Primarily I carry this. This is a down jacket. I carry it for myself, but I've certainly put it on other people when they're cold when we rescue them. The other thing that we have in here, you guys really don't want to pass around my jacket. I have a set of gloves. Gloves fall off all the time, so we have extra gloves for people. Anything else? Sorry? Snow saw. Snow saw. Perfect. Snow saw. So we use this primarily as a nerd. I use this to do stability or instability tests to assess the snowpack. The other thing it comes in really handy for is cutting trees. Sometimes we have to cut trees away. Whether we need to get into areas or cut trees off of people or get out of areas, it's always handy to have a saw. Everyone's seen a saw. This is sharp. I don't think we need to pass this around though. Anything else? Rope. Rope! I got a rope. So we use rope at Solitude. What ends up happening is we go out onto this area and we have cornices. And we need to take care of these cornices or people ski down and they need help. So we carry a rope with us. I can pass this rope around. Everyone's seen a rope? Do me a favor though, don't pull the whole rope out of the bag. It's pretty light, huh? That's a special rope. Anything else? Food. I don't carry food with me, but I do carry water. Food weighs a little bit too much and you can go for a long time without food. I might get hungry, I might get hangry as you may call it, but I choose not to carry food. There's a lot of people that do carry food. And we do have caches of candy bars, water, things like that. If we know we're gonna go out on a long rescue, we choose candy bars because it's sugar, quick energy essentially. A what? It does inflate. So we have an airbag. I'm not going to deploy the airbag right now, but have you guys ever seen an airbag? Yeah. Essentially, a very large balloon comes out of the top. Does anyone know how that works or why it works? You float. Sorry? You float, yeah. Scientifically, it's not quite that simple, but it makes you bigger. The way I like to think of it is when you were a kid and you used to get the little prizes in the cereal box, you shake the cereal box and the prize would rise to the top. It's not necessarily that the prize is lighter than the cereal in the cereal box, but it's bigger, so you float to the top. This is only good for me though. It doesn't help rescue you guys. So I use this. This is what I would consider a personal protective equipment. So it only works for me. Anything else? I'll give you a hint.
Jacket.
No, I do carry a jacket, but I'm pointing at the cross.
Medical stuff.
Medical stuff. Yeah, if you wear the red jacket, you have to carry medical stuff. We never know when someone's going to need a Band-Aid. So we carry first aid equipment. What's up? A radio, yeah. I got a radio right here. So if I need to, I can call someone for help, or if someone needs me, they can call me for help. This is just a first aid kit. Everyone seen Band-Aids before? Yeah, perfect. So we don't need to see this. Let's see what else I got in here. With the rope stuff, I also have other toys. You're more than welcome to look through that. Once it comes out of the bag though, it's really hard to get back into the bag. And that's about it. What we can carry is what we have to rescue you guys. Anything else, we have to call for backup. We have equipment caches, or it comes in by helicopter. What's up? Well, we'll put it back together when everything comes around, and you guys will all have the opportunity to carry a pack, put a pack on and see what you guys think. I've never weighed it. I'm kind of scared to weigh. Has everyone seen the Recca? Perfect. You seen it? No? Do you want to look at it?
Hey, Xander, which pieces have a ball?
Cool. Like I mentioned, we also look at the weather. Where are we found? Who knows where they can find ski patrol? Where can we find ski patrol?
At the clinic.
Powderhorn. Clinic? I heard Powderhorn. Where? Summit, yeah. What's up?
Is it? Sorry, not.
Yes? Powderhorn, yep. And then you can always reach us by phone. Does anyone have our phone number in their phone? See one person? Does everyone have their phone number in their phone? Does anyone not have our phone number in their phone? If you guys are skiing tomorrow, you should download the Solitude app. In the app, there's a button that says Contact Solitude Ski Patrol. It's that easy. You don't have to worry about the number. You keep everything up to date that way. The other thing is we're based out of downstairs. If you go 2 floors down, that's where our offices are. And you can find us all over the mountain. We make a habit of skiing everywhere. If there's a ski track, we can guarantee that we've been there and we'll be there. When are we here? So anytime the ski resort is open, we're here. We're generally here before the ski resort, or we're always here before the ski resort is open and after the ski resort is open. Additionally, we're here all summer long. Yes?
Don't you guys carry bombs?
We do. I'm so glad you asked that. We'll get this one over with. You feel strong? Or are you a little tired? You're strong? So before we pass these around, these are not real explosives. It's essentially plastic. They should say, or they used to say, inert on them. Not real explosives. That one's 2 pounds. That's what 2 pounds feels like. That one's 1 pound. We use that tiny one when we need to throw them.
What do you call it that? Like
Sorry.
when you're all down and it doesn't hit you.
No, I'm not a football player, so I haven't perfected that. Yes? Toboggan, yeah, that's rescue equipment as well. And at a future time, we'll have the opportunity, part of this series of talks with Ski Patrol, for you guys to check out toboggans. And that date is, we'll get that date to you by the end of the day. The 14th, perfect. Why are we here? We're here because we all love to ski. We all love to have fun. But we love to do it in challenging ski terrain. With that comes risk, comes reward, but with steep terrain also comes avalanches. Yeah?
But at night sometimes we're not open. We just last night.
Yes, at night we go to sleep too. But we're here to provide a service for our ticket holders. So if you buy a ticket, that guarantees you our service. We're free. We don't charge the public when we come rescue you. It's part of your lift ticket. We're also here, selfishly, because we love to be here. It's the best job in the world. You guys have the rope being passed around and all of that equipment. This is what we use the rope for. Maybe? Yep. So we go up, there's big cornices, large chunks of snow that we have to take off. Those cornices will fall down naturally onto skiers below. Additionally, we open this terrain. Where these people are, this is all terrain that you can ski if you choose to. So we need to reduce that hazard as well. Now we get a little bit into nerd talk. What is an avalanche? Does anyone know what an avalanche is? What's an avalanche?
It's when you're skiing and some snow falls down and it starts getting really big, and then if you get smashed by it, the ski patrol have to come find you.
Yeah, exactly.
With this.
With all of those. The one thing to consider there, though, is you don't necessarily have to be skiing in it for there to be an avalanche. Yeah.
It's usually when there's a hard base and then a lot of snow gets piled on it, and it's like slowly moves it. It will all the thing on the hard base will start to slide, and as it goes down the hill, it will get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and there were a lot of things you said in there that are spot on. I'm actually impressed. I'm very impressed. I went to Webster to figure out what the actual definition is of an avalanche, because my definition is pretty similar to yours. But an avalanche is a mass of snow that slides down the hill rapidly on an inclined slope, triggered by natural forces, which can be wind, or human activity, like skiing. What is avalanche terrain? Can anyone identify avalanche terrain? Yes? Yeah, 30 degrees or higher. And does there have to be snow to have there be an avalanche?
No.
Yeah. So if we're out on a rock face in the summer, rock climbing, are we worried about avalanches?
No.
No.
But you're worried about rock falls.
You are worried about rockfall. The other thing that gets really tricky with avalanches is that you don't have to be on a 30-degree slope. If you're below a 30-degree slope, you can be in avalanche terrain. Remember when I showed you that first video and I mentioned it came all the way down, it actually went up the other side of the slope and piled 15 feet of debris? That was on a relatively level slope. You could be below an avalanche path and still have an issue with avalanches. The way I like to, and a lot of snow science professionals like to think about it, it's called the avalanche triangle. On the three sides of the triangle, we have snowpack. So we spoke about snow. We have weather and we have terrain. So terrain, we need a steep slope. Snowpack. In order for there to be an avalanche, I like to think of it as a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You have bread, and then you slather on jelly. And then on top, or on the other slice of bread, you slather on peanut butter. The peanut butter is really gooey, and it sticks together to the bread really well, and the jelly slides all around on the other slice of bread. When you have the two together, nothing really is an issue. The jelly can slide off, won't cause an avalanche. Peanut butter is glued to the bread, won't cause an avalanche. When you make the sandwich though, all of a sudden the bread can start to move around and you have what's called a slab, which is that big mass of snow that comes down. So you have snow with a weak layer and a slope. Weather, is it snowing? Is snow the only thing that causes avalanches? What else can cause avalanches? Yeah, go for it.
Wind.
Wind can cause avalanches, yep. Is there anything else? Yes? Sorry? Humans can cause avalanches, and we'll get to that in a second. But like weather-wise, what can cause? Weather, yeah. Yeah, so one thing in weather would be sun. If it gets too warm, weather can cause an avalanche. Sun can cause an avalanche. Water percolates through the snowpack, saturates that weak layer, adds cohesiveness in that slice of bread and then peanut butter and jelly, and can cause an avalanche. Yes?
Rain.
Rain, perfect. Rain is another thing that increases avalanche hazard significantly, much more quickly than snow does. Does anyone know why? You got all the answers, let's hear it.
Because it turns into ice.
Eventually.
And then it'll fall down because there's too much snow.
Yeah, the big reason why rain causes avalanches so significantly is because rain is much more dense than snow. So it adds weight to the snowpack much more quickly. What's up?
But it also, if you if there's snow and you make water, it turns to ice. So it probably, if it goes under the pack, it will probably turn the bottom to ice and then it'll just slide.
That does happen, yeah. You get ice layers, rain crust layers. We had a rain on snow event that turned into a crust on November 17th, and that caused us problems all fall. So I feel like we beat snowpack weather and terrain to death, but the really important thing is if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, do we care? No. Humans are at the center of the triangle, and that's really where things get important for us. Avalanches can happen out in the honeycomb when no one's here all day long, and I do not care. It's when we open that terrain or when we're looking to open that terrain that it really starts to become important. So whether it's snowpack terrain and how humans interact with it is really what's important. What's up?
Like with the first big jump on Apex Open, 3 people got hurt because it was too big. They're trying to do crazy stuff.
Well, I wasn't there, so I wouldn't make assumptions as to what happened, but they were humans, yes. We have a terrain map here. Do you guys recognize this terrain map? You do? Nice. How much of this terrain do you guys think is avalanche terrain?
All of it.
All of it? 50%?
70%.
70%.
Most of the upper half?
Most of the upper half. So, sadly, I meant to measure it this summer. I didn't have the opportunity, but I can tell you this much of the resort is avalanche terrain. This is where avalanche paths occur within Solitude. One thing to keep in mind is there's a large portion of the resort which is all avalanche terrain, which isn't shown. Highway to Heaven, backside of Evergreen Peak. But this is avalanche terrain. Does anything catch anyone off guard on this picture? Did you guys know that there's avalanche terrain below Moonbeam? Or what about off a Sunrise Lift by Apex? Here? Yeah, we have little avalanche paths all over our mountain. And then really interesting thing is, what happens when we start shutting down lifts because of avalanche terrain if we fall behind the ball? This is what our ski resort looks like. You guys get Link. And the magic carpet.
Is that tomorrow?
Sorry?
Is that tomorrow?
No, we're gonna fight hard. Our goal is to get the terrain open, not to close terrain. But we do have snow coming tonight. Perfect. So all of these areas are where ski patrol travel around to mitigate avalanches. We don't have to do all of it all the time, but before we open any terrain, we certainly take a look at it. More avalanches. Do you guys know where this is? You say it out loud.
Sunrise.
Yeah, perfect. That's what a wet snow avalanche looks like. You can notice that it looks much more like a waterfall. You can also see the lift there.
Yeah, that's it, the trick, 6'6".
The lift is moving. There's no one on the lift. We cleared the lift. We keep the lift moving so that ski patrol can move around. So this is a little bit of the word game that I like to play with myself. Mitigate. Mitigate, we're the Avalanche Mitigation Department. So we make less severe, serious, or painful. There's a serious undertone to that. We do not eliminate the avalanche hazard. If you're going to ski in avalanche terrain, there is no way to eliminate the avalanche hazard. We do our best job and we pride ourselves on the job that we do, but there's no way to eliminate the avalanche hazard. And then there's hazard versus risk. A hazard would be driving on the road. Who drove on the road to get here? Probably everybody. And then the risk would be the chance that you're harmed of driving, say driving in a blizzard. Something that can cause harm, the chance that you're harmed. Driving in a blizzard, is that an acceptable risk for us?
Yes.
Has everyone driven in a blizzard before? Perfect. What's required to drive in a blizzard? What?
Four-wheel drive or chains.
Yeah, you want to have the right car with the right equipment.
Not like Tesla.
I've never driven a Tesla, so I don't know if the Tesla drives well in the snow or not. You also want to have the right skill set. In terms of avalanche mitigation, we have the right equipment, we have the right training, we're able to manage that risk. We look at shaving your face. Maybe 50% of us shave our face. It's a hazard. I would be willing to say that everyone that's shaved their face has cut themselves. However, shaving a bear, would you guys shave a bear? Could you imagine a situation though where a bear would be shaved? If you're a veterinarian, sure. What do veterinarians do? They have applicable training and tools to mitigate that hazard. So we're stepping up in our seriousness. Everyone drives in a blizzard. Shaving a bear, only a few specialized trained people actually do that. And this is the realm that we live in. Right equipment, right training, right time is when we do avalanche mitigation. Using a blow dryer, there's a risk there. You can burn yourself. You could get shocked, but it's pretty small. The risk of using it in the tub. Has anyone ever used a hairdryer in the tub? No. Well, I hope not. This is an unacceptable risk. No one is trained to use a hairdryer in the tub. There's really not a reason to when you can step out of the tub and use a hairdryer. This is kind of the line that we draw when we say, no go. Terrain's closed, we're not going there today, we're not going to perform the mitigation. When we talk about avalanche hazard, we talk about the likelihood and size of the slide. Is it going to be small and is it unlikely? Sometimes we're willing to roll the dice. Did anyone ski in the honeycomb today? You skied in the honeycomb? Did you ski on the east face?
I was on top, the chute.
Did you go on the left side of the gate?
Yeah.
Did you see some of those little snow sloughs that came down? There were many avalanches that were occurring in the honeycomb today. We knew it was going to happen. It was forecasted to happen. We thought that it was going to be very small, not influence the terrain, and the likelihood was very similar. The risk of opening the terrain, or the reward of opening the terrain for you guys far outweighed the risk. Vulnerability and exposure. If you were to stand out in the middle of an avalanche path all day long for 365 days, you're pretty vulnerable. You have a large exposure. When we do avalanche mitigation, we limited our exposure. Does anyone know how we limit our exposure? We only put one person onto an avalanche path at a time. We also tend to move very quickly when we're in hazardous locations. We minimize our time there. Like when you're walking across the street, you walk quickly, you don't dilly-dally. I'm sure no one's ever jaywalked before, but if you were to jaywalk, you probably had a little bit of a trot as you guys were walking across the road. So the hazard, the avalanche hazard, is the likelihood, I'm sorry, I already covered that. The avalanche risk is the avalanche hazard times the vulnerability. How likely and how large is the avalanche going to be? With how long is that exposure going to be there? What's up? Just stretching your arm. The towers, we'll get there, but we'll talk about the towers. So we manage risk by reducing our hazard, reducing our exposure, and planning to mitigate vulnerability. Mitigating vulnerability, we try not to put lifts in avalanche slide paths. We don't put structures in avalanche slide paths. We try to make main thoroughfares not go through avalanche slide paths. We use passive and active mitigation as well. Does anyone know what passive mitigation is? Who wanted to ski Fantasy Ridge today? Nobody, neither did I. Did anyone want to ski Evergreen? You wanted to ski Evergreen. Was Evergreen open today?
Yes.
No, Evergreen Peak was not open today. It was closed. Closing terrain is the best passive mitigation that we have. Keep people out of there, keep humans out of there. They're not influenced by the avalanche triangle. Active mitigation. We spoke about active mitigation. Do you guys know what active mitigation is? Bombs. We try not to call them bombs. Government gets a little upset. We call them explosives. But we use explosives. Another technique that we'll use, ski cutting. Have you guys ever heard of ski cutting? Perfect. So here we have a brief outline of what a day in the life of avalanche mitigation looks like. So 4 o'clock this morning, I woke up. I looked to see if the snowstorm that didn't come yesterday showed up finally. It hadn't. But at 4 o'clock, we assessed the past, current, and future weather. What is the weather going to look like today? Do we need to wake up? Do we need to get the crew up? Do we need to perform mitigation? If it's a go, at 5 o'clock, we're all in the office. We're developing a plan. We acquire and assemble explosives, and then we complete our documentation. Just like the rest of your guys' jobs, I'm sure you go to school. Do you have to complete a lot of homework? It's like adult homework. By 6:30, after we've developed our plan, we brief our team on the weather. So how much snow did we get? How much snow are we going to get? And what we think the hazard and likelihood of that hazard is going to be. 7 o'clock, we're out on the hill. Do you guys know why we don't go out before 7 o'clock? Can't see, it's dark. It's actually illegal for us to use explosives in the dark. So at 7 o'clock now, we're pretty close to December 21st. It's still dark, but by the time we get to the top of the mountain and start walking out, the sun has come up. From 7:01, we've already been throwing our first punch. Changing and adapting the plan. By 1500, we're consistently adapting the plan to meet what's going on out there. We're probably on plan Z or maybe AA, just changing the plan over and over and over again. At 3 o'clock, we begin developing a plan for the following day, for tomorrow. And in fact, right now, downstairs, 2 floors down, my team is developing a plan for tomorrow. So that we can go out and we can get that terrain open for you. Typically by 5:30, we're finalizing the plan, reaching out to everyone, communicating our plan, finishing up our adult homework, and we begin to call it a day. Are you raising your hand or just, what's up?
I forgot what I was going to say, but...
Happens to me all the time.
Why you do the rope is because if you're not supposed to do it, you do the rope so people don't duck it.
Exactly, and we're going to talk about that. We put up ropes to keep people out of terrain, and that's passive mitigation. And then at the end of every day, we'll wake up the following day at 4 o'clock, see if it needs to happen, and we'll rinse and repeat. So you asked about the towers. Someone asked about the towers. You asked about the towers. So now we're going to talk about the towers. We have decent towers at Solitude. We have 4 of them. 3 of them are brand new to us. We had 1 last year. This is a video of what the Beeson Tower sounds like before it detonates. All of our Beeson Towers have an audible alarm. If you guys hear this, go the other way. And this is our Beeson Tower. You Kids that are in school, have you ever heard this noise before? What does it remind you of?
A fire alarm.
A fire alarm, exactly. There's no accident. That's actually the ISO tone for get out. So it means get out of there. So these Beeson towers will create an audible tone before, during, and after detonation. To speak a little bit about the Beeson tower, it's a giant box that holds 12 of these 11-pound explosives. So it's like 5 of these and 1 of these. And it's like a revolver, and they'll drop out and it'll detonate it. Or it'll detonate. This gives us the ability to perform mitigation without actually having to be there. If you guys want to pass these around, or this around. And this is a look at another one of our Beeson towers, a little bit better of a look. You can see the box that's up there, that gets flown in by a helicopter, and this post is permanent, lives up on the train. And this is actually what it looks like when a Beeson charge drops out of the Beeson. You can hear the alarm. So you can see that orange tube drop out of the box. The video ends there. Why do you guys think the video ends? Because we have to run, yeah. We have to listen to that tone and get out of there. It's a big boom. And this is another video of our Beeson tower. So right here, you can actually see the Beeson tower and you'll see a blast. This is a really useful tool. We can push a button from our computer and cause this avalanche. We don't have to go up there. So you saw that explosion, and then you can see this avalanche coming down. Do you guys know where this is? So this is out in the Boundaries, backside of East Bowl. Yep. Safety and improve efficacy as much as possible. So this tower location was put here because of the risk to workers. There was actually a patroller fatality 28 years ago on this slide path. He was caught in an avalanche while mitigating the hazard and passed away. Our other tower locations, one tower location which is we have a location on top of Honeycomb Peak. That location was used based on its our ability to effectively cause or create mitigation or perform mitigation in a timely manner, as well as balance with the effectiveness of the location. So how broad spread would one shot be? How many slide paths can we take out? The one thing that did for us was it took a tremendous amount of weight out of our backpacks when we have to climb up. Our other two locations that we used, we put a Beeson right on Black Bass Peak and in between the hidden chutes. Those locations, what they do is it's the first step towards our initial goal with using the Beesons. They allow us to fire the Beesons and open the west face without having to go up and around Fantasy. So now, what we used to have to do is we would have to run a Fantasy Ridge route to open the west face, someplace not even on the same slope. We can push 2 buttons and open the west face. Eventually, fully built out, we hope to have the ability to open the east face without having to go up Fantasy Ridge. That'll take a significant commitment and quite a bit of time. The other thing, to be 100% honest, is it's a new tool for us. We weren't quite sure how effective that it'll be. The more Beesons that we get, the more we start to understand how and where these need to be. So we didn't want to cluster them all together and overdo it. So we're doing it slowly. We're installing them slowly and strategically, trying to minimize worker risk, reduce work, and increase effectiveness, which hopefully will enable us to open terrain more quickly so you guys can get out and ski the snow while it's still good.
How do they refill the explosives?
So we have to, if we look at a tower, that's not a great picture. So you can see these giant wings on the top. We use a helicopter, and a helicopter flies out with a long line, and it has a special one-way gated hook that nests with these wings. And when the hook drops onto the wings, it locks, and it can actually lift off the tower. And you can see what's called the dorn right here, this funnel, this inverted funnel. It'll lift off right there. That funnel is there so that when they bring it back, it helps land the dorn onto the tower. So in order to refill them, or in the summer, helicopter will come in, use the gated hook, lift the beeson off, fly it to a level ground. We open the box, we put explosives in it, and they either fly it out, or in the summer, we pack them up, put them away for the summer.
And how many does it hold of those?
12. So it holds 12. So it's
One at a time?
one at a time. Well, one explosive per tower at the time, but we do have the ability to fire all the towers at the same time. But with 12, it's a little bit of a budgeting game. You don't want to use everything all at once, and then you have to pay a lot of money to fly a helicopter out. But also you want to use the tool when you have it. So right now, we got a little bit of snow the other day. We chose not to use them. We've got more snow coming. I'm really thinking about using them, getting an itchy finger, because it's a tool, we paid for it, we want to use it, we want to get our money's worth out of it. But we certainly don't want to have 5 helicopter trips a year.
Do the explosives expire if you don't use them in like a year?
So, that's an interesting question. This form of explosive, they say, has no shelf life. So they don't expire. It's not a use it or lose it type of situation. What we don't have in here, because we don't have inert demos of them, are cap and fuse. Those do start to deteriorate with time. But the beautiful thing about the beeson is that in the summer, we can pull the cap and fuse out and use it for our hand charges the following fall. So we're not really worried about our products going bad. I don't expect in my lifetime that we'll ever stop doing avalanche mitigation. We like to think of it as the milk at the grocery store. We just put the oldest product at the front, and we use the oldest product first, so the product continues to revolve around. Great questions. Anything else from the beesons? Yes?
No, it's not.
Sure.
Have you had any significant avalanches while ski with the team?
We have. We're not proud about it. We're proud of it, but I would say every Class A ski resort has had inbound avalanches. We've never had anyone seriously hurt or injured from an inbound avalanche, but they do occur. What ends up happening, Solitude is 1,300 acres. Sometimes we can get upwards of 6 inches an hour, and we can't stay on top of it. The other thing, like I mentioned when we use the term mitigate, is we reduce the hazard. We don't eliminate the hazard. There's still the possibility of something happening out there. And that's why we train really hard to deal with that. Yeah?
Do a lot of ski patrol die or get hurt every year?
I wouldn't say a lot. I wouldn't say many or even a few, but it does happen. Every couple of years, there's a ski patroller that passes away. The way I like to give the analogy is the same as firefighters. Firefighters are out there, we understand the risk, and we choose to go anyways, and sometimes it doesn't work out for us very well. I won't lie to you and say it doesn't happen, because it does, and it's always very sad, but it's not common at all. Perfect. The final thing, how can you guys help us? So I'm gonna bend your guys' ears as well. The one thing that I'll say is obey all signs and closures. This is part of, yes?
Like the rope.
Like the ropes. Never duck a rope. Some ski resorts allow you to duck ropes. I understand, it's confusing. We don't want you to duck ropes here at Solitude. Never duck any ropes. Obey all signs and closures. We also need you guys to stop and read our signs. There's a lot of signs that look very similar, such as these two signs. These two signs look almost identical. However, they say two very different things. One says go and one says no go. So please stop and read our signs. Has anyone ever seen these signs? You have? Did you stop or go?
Stop. You know I can't read, but.
So these signs go out before we open the resort for the year. One sign is pretty much you're inbounds at Solitude, but we don't care if you go, have fun, backcountry ski. The other sign says pretty much we're using CAT's heavy equipment, maybe Avalanche Mitigation, please don't go. This sign, this has been a hot topic this year. No hiking above the traverse. We have a lot of people this year that have been hiking above the traverse into avalanche terrain, avalanche closed terrain. We take this very seriously. If it gets much more carried away, we're going to be forced to keep the terrain that's skiable closed because people can't follow the rules. So one thing I would ask of you guys, if you see someone not following the rules, say, hey, you're not following the rules. Don't ruin it for the rest of us. There's a lot more of you guys than there are of us. We can't see or handle everyone. Yes?
Because today I saw people ducking ropes to go to train.
Ducking ropes to go to the terrain park. You don't want to duck any ropes. We want you to go through the terrain park gate so you can see the signs and read the signs.
I'm trying to tell them, don't duck the rope.
Thank you. Nice job.
And they're usually
I do have a question on that.
Yeah.
So today from the heaven to heaven, see?
Highway to heaven, yeah?
Yeah, so like went along that's the traverse, and then I see like a slide. That is how the traverse are that further up.
So this is where it gets really tricky because we'll go out and set the traverse.
Okay.
And if you're on our tracks, you're fine. But what inevitably happens is someone gets bucky and climbs up the slope, and then they ruin the whole idea of follow the sign. Typically when we see that, we'll put a sign on it that says closed to let people know. 99% of the time, if you end up on a slope and you see a traverse above you, it's condoned. If we see a significant traverse where we don't want it, we'll shut it down and we'll heavily sign it. Although that's pretty rare. Normally it's just one rotten apple. This sign, this is probably the most important sign, at least in my belief, that we have at Solitude. This is the closed avalanche danger sign. There's a rope line there too that you can see. We put this up when the avalanche hazard is considered too high for us to allow public in there. When people duck these rope lines and get hurt, it causes all sorts of problems. We put this rope line up either because we're doing explosive mitigation back there, or because we've deemed it's too hazardous for us to go back there. If you go back there and you get hurt or injured, we have to go back there and get you, and we don't want to do that. So not only are you putting yourselves at risk, but you're also putting us at risk. We may not even go back there if the hazard is high enough. We may say, you didn't follow the rules, you're on your own, buddy. So avalanche close sign. This is out on the same slope. You can see a 3 or 4 foot crown there. Do you guys know where this train is? You were there today. Highway to heaven. This sign. This sign is pretty vague, but pretty much it says, it's an open border. Don't come in here unless you know that it's open. You must have a Solitude pass to ski here. The only place where these signs exist are up on Fantasy Ridge. And the way that we've been educating people, how do you know if the terrain is open?
The gate's open.
Well, there's no gate up there.
The fantasy is open.
Yeah, if you come through from the resort, but people might come from Little Cottonwood. Mark, how would you know if the terrain was open?
I use the Solitude app.
The Solitude app. It's updated. We have all sorts of staff that their whole job is to make sure that that app is correct. So if you ever have any questions, pull up the app will let you know if the terrain is open. If you're not going to ski Fantasy Ridge, you'll probably never see this sign. Other ways that you can help us: get training, become an asset for us. Has anyone ever received avalanche training before? I see a handful of hands. Where have you guys received avalanche training? UAC.
BC. British Columbia.
British Columbia. With what organization?
Wiggly and CMH.
So guiding operations. Perfect.
Right here, and we actually took the lift up and we were by Tennessee Ridge. It wasn't dropped down by the lake.
And what organization offered that?
I don't remember. It was a local.
A local organization. There's American Avalanche Institute, ARI. There's a lot of smaller boutique organizations. The Utah Avalanche Center. Get training. You guys are obviously interested about avalanches. Become an asset for us. Help us out. There's many more of you guys than there are of us. And it also improves your life. You're able to go out into the backcountry, understand why these pieces of terrain are opening and closing. Reporting avalanches. Heaven forbid you happen to see an avalanche like you asked, or about inbounds. Key things that we're going to want from you are the location, when, if you actually witnessed the slide, and involvement if you saw people caught into it. We consider every reported avalanche very seriously, or very serious. Our dispatcher will probably keep you on the phone. A ski patroller will come meet you and they'll escort you to where you saw that. It's probably going to ruin your day, your skiing day, but we will make it up to you. If you bought a pass, we'll buy you a new pass. We'll make it well worth your time, but the information that you have if you witnessed an avalanche is invaluable to us. So if you see something, please report it. And then identifying UXO. Does anyone hike around here in the summer? We have signs at all the entrances to Solitude. If you come in entry 1, entry 2, across the bridge, there's signs talking about unexploded ordinances. We do a really good job of collecting all of our unexploded ordinances, but Solitude's been open for a long time. How long, Mark?
66 years?
66 years. There were a lot of people that worked here before me, and I can't vouch for them all. So we find unexploded ordinances on the hill. This was found 3 years ago in the milk run. No one has any idea of how it got there. It doesn't belong there, but it was there. On the right, we have a mortar round. We don't know why there's a mortar round here, but they're here. On the left, we have plastic explosives.
And don't touch it when you see them.
Yes, thank you very much for mentioning that. These are explosives. They're extremely deadly. Do not touch them. The easiest way that we found for people to deal with that, take a picture of it and send us the picture. On the picture, it'll have a GPS coordinate. That way we can see what we're dealing with and the location. Essentially, what we'll do is we'll go out, we'll confirm that it's there, we'll close the terrain, coordinate it off. If we're comfortable dealing with it, we'll deal with it. If it's something we're not comfortable dealing with, we'll call the FBI. So there's situations we handle explosives all day long. We may just say, I've never seen this, I don't know why it's here. The one thing I don't have a picture of, but I wouldn't doubt that it's here, is artillery. Little Cottonwood fires artillery all of the time, or less now, but they used to fire it all of the time. UDOT has missed their target before, believe it or not. I wouldn't be surprised if there's artillery in Big Cottonwood Canyon. And so that means you may find these things down the road, not in a ski resort. So take a picture. If it's not on Solitude property, feel free to call the police, send the police the photograph. But by all means, do not touch it. With that, opens us up to questions.